hell's wrong with you? I mean, how am I supposed to explain this to my wife, Norman? Yeah, I know who you are. Those marks are nothing compared to what you're gonna get later.
Check it out. Temptation is definitely one of those things no one is immune to. It's the genesis of the fall of man. As dangerous as it may be, death by temptation probably feels good at first. Check it out. Hey yo, if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe to become a hood figure. That way you can recommend what movies I should do next. But for now, check it out. What's it about? Death by Temptation is a supernatural horror film about the way temptation consumes the soul and attacks the flesh. In the movie, the personification of temptation is a succubus, a type of female demon that preys on the fantasies of men to sustain themselves. Here, two friends have to endure the allure of temptation in order to survive. But can they? Check it out. Here we go. Character. Joel represents the average guy that attempts to resist temptation by living a life free of being turned up or turned out. He's our run-of-the-mill, straight and narrow protagonist fish out of water, a son of a preacher man, you know the song. Joel wants to walk in his father's shoes, but first he gotta conquer what's compelling him. Kay is Joel's buddy/brother. Their relationship is kind of confusing. It ain't nothing really set in stone. It's kind of like they share the same grandmother, but I don't really know. But nonetheless, back in the day, they studied theology as kids. Kay was once devoted as Joel was, but now Kay is more of a free spirit living in New York. And for the most part, Kay's a real cool guy with dreams of going from a B-list actor to an A-list star. But he becomes enticed by temptation. Dougie is an undercover governmental agent that tracks murders that appear supernatural in nature. So basically, he works for the man in black. For much of the film, I just thought Dougie was like a player with poor game. However, he's actually on the trail of evil and has a plan to defeat it. Temptation? Temptation is a temptress. Temptation is a temptress demon that preys on the sexual desires of men, transforming fantasies into fatalities. Wicked to say the least, we only see a sample of her true powers, including telekinesis, shape-shifting, and astral projection. It's assumed that temptation's only weakness is holy water, but you gotta watch it to see. So check it out. What I see? This movie has a lot of religious overtones, from Sam Jackson making a guest appearance as a preacher to his son in the film weaponizing the cross to battle demons. With this being a horror film, you would think this would be like a battle of good and evil, but it ain't that deep. The fight against temptation is a test of will, starting with Joel, who's at the crossroad of his spiritual path. While he's willing, he's hesitant to walk the path of his father. Same thing with Kay. He too was once just as faithful as Joel, but his will compelled him to chase Hollywood instead of his faith. Temptation's purpose in real life, like in the film, is to deter you however it can, with her favorite tool in the film being lust. So that makes her goal the perversion of your soul or self-being. Although temptation devours the wicked like the adulterer and the pro-choice playboy, it or she also prefers the innocent and righteous like Joel and his father. Maybe because the unadulterated souls like unadulterated coke is more potent. I don't know. Or it could be probably because they act as shepherds heeding folks from her grasp. Like I said, I don't know. The reason I say this movie is a horror comedy loosely, because it's not scary as much as it is creepy. I mean, I wasn't afraid when I was watching it, but it did make the hairs on my arm kind of straighten up a little bit, you know what I mean? And as far as comedy, it was just a couple of one-liners here and there that made me laugh, but it ain't on a Freddy Krueger level or something like that. It seems like between Joel and his father, their family has always been on Temptation's radar, because I noticed she became more attracted to Joel through Kay, which go back to me thinking they was more brothers than like friends and buddies and guys or whatever. But anyway, Joel is a man at a crossroad in his life, groomed to be a man of faith, but he's hesitant to wear the cloth, because even though his father endured temptation's grasp, his father couldn't avoid temptation completely and he killed him, you feel me? Although not articulated this way, I think that's what compelled Joel to go to New York to attempt to experience life free of temptation and religion. And sure, we all know ain't no escaping temptation, so maybe Joel's hesitation was a form of preparation for his later confrontation, you feel me? As viewers, we see Joel being sheltered despite coming from a line of men that preach and teach what's right. I think if temptation can lure Joel from his path, it would enrich her more due to his innocence. And with him out the way, it would allow for more victims for her to take advantage of, since he's the one that saves souls as a preacher. Man. But anyway, check it out. Here's a couple lessons from Death by Temptation. Lesson.
Blessed is the man that endureth temptation.
Lesson, both ways.
What I'm saying is, when you are just one step away from reaching your goal, that actually is a crossroad. And it's up to you to look both ways.
Lesson. There's no such thing as looking like you don't have a disease. You can't tell me what a person with a STI or STD look like.
You can tell your wife when she wants to fuck.
Honey, I've given you something there's no cure for.
Lesson. Temptation has no feelings. It'll even try to come between you and family. Control your temptation. Don't let them control you.
We're talking about a woman, all right? That's all we're talking about. All she is she's just a small piece of this whole...
Lesson. Religion or lack of it doesn't free you from temptation. You just gotta move accordingly. Then subscribe and check it out. When you see it, the title Death by Temptation is a play on words for Death by Temptation, which happens to be the subtext of the story. I mean, to stay alive, all you had to do was not be thirsty or just have the willpower, you know? I don't know if you knew this, but not only was this film made in New York, but it was filmed in Lawrence Fishburne's house. Kadeem Hardison, he ends up a chauffeur for Temptation just as he did in Vampire in Brooklyn. And while you got me talking, this was just like Vampire in Brooklyn, just inverted. This movie doesn't stand out for being a low-budget trauma film. Trauma is a horror company. But this film stands out because how clean and practical the special effects were in this movie. This movie also inverts the horror trope of boobs for peckers. In addition, what makes this a remarkable classic horror movie is it's one of the first horror movies with an all-black cast. This wasn't done again until 1995's Tales from the Hood. I think Temptation hung out in bars not only because that's where singles go, but more importantly because alcohol lowers your resistance to temptation, which should have helped Joel against temptation, saying how he didn't drink. What I liked about this film was how the lighting created eerie vibes, which is what I mean when I say the hairs on my arm was standing up. The part where the TV attacked, love that. Like, too much TV can kill you. Facts. If not kill you, can definitely send you off. I also liked how, this being a black movie or an urban movie, racial stereotypes never come up, but it's still an urban tone, you feel me? To me, this movie may not ever get its due because of the stance it takes with religion. Just look at all Temptation victims, with them being air quotes here, sinners. From the adulterer to the pro-choice playboy to the zesty down low married guy from the bar. Straight up, a lot of this film feels personal. The star James Bond III also wrote and directed this as his first and only film. He even left room in the ending credits to shout out his father and his grandfather with a message like, "I'm the last one now." Much like his character. Like I say, to me it feels personal. Much like his character Joel, James is an interesting study. If you notice, most of his other characters in other movies share similar traits to this guy. I would love to see him come back and link up with Jordan Peele, but then again, maybe the reason we don't see much of James Bond III is because of the temptations of Hollywood. It's crazy. Check it out. In closing, even though we started with a succubus, the ending delivers Dougie as the incubus, which is a male version of a succubus. This movie is about the different paths two friends take and where they lead. A sort of small town country life versus big city dreams with a horror twist. If you take anything away from this film, it should be not to let your desires or temptation consume you. Remember, the fight against temptation isn't about the win. It's about not giving in. In theory, temptation can ruin families and relationships. And the fact is, it's always going to be present, whether you're in the church or you go to bars. What's funny is they both serve alcohol in some form. The point is, you don't run yourself off the road trying to avoid it. You just accept it as a part of life and endure it to make every experience next time facing it a lot better. As always, I'm Fox. This is Check It Out. Let me know any lessons I may have missed in the comments. Check It Out Hood Reviews is an official black-owned business. Hitting that like and sharing is the easiest and least expensive way to show your support. So go ahead and do that for me. So as usual, as I always say, like, share, and subscribe so the big homie can survive. Y'all be safe, be cool. Remember to choose wisely, man. Here go them extras. How many of y'all knew Freddie Jackson was in this movie? How many of y'all cared? Sad note, the way to defeat temptation is with focus. Deaf being a play on words was like a big thing in the 90s. Like, think about it, like Def Jam, Def Comedy, Def Row, goddammit. Like, Def anything in the 90s was an instant hit. Like, you could have been Deaf hearing aids. That would have sold hard. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, just wrapping this up. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, man, staying down with me, man, watching this channel grow. A lot of y'all been with me since I used to have the videos and like that blue color and everything. So a lot of y'all been watching the videos improve with the sound quality and everything. It's been up and down, man, but y'all been staying down and staying with me, man, watching me grow, delivering these little messages and everything, little hints and little gems and these little reviews I be doing. So I appreciate y'all for picking up the gems I'm dropping, man. Straight up in a real way, man. Each one teach one, man. That's the beautiful thing, man. Kiss your kids and hug your mama. I'm out.
Let's go, man. This way. No, we go this way. This way. No, we go this way. This way, man. Dougie, I'll see you when I see you. See you when I see you.